while I'm thinking of these things for the morning, my plumbing is just so bad. Well, of course, yours is good plumbing here, right? Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, just don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. Just been bound up lately. It's driving me crazy. I've been eating a lot of cheese for some reason. I don't know what it is. I got a craving for this stuff. I think maybe that's an allergy or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't get enough cheese. I feel like a big mouse.
Hello and welcome to the Movie Mouthfuls podcast, a movie podcast with zero table manners. Each episode will be tucking into movies and the odd television show to chow down on some of the most iconic cinematic cuisine scenes in cinema history, as well as just about everything else we can get our hands on. I'm your host Jordan, the bloke trying to be known as the film fella online, and as always, I'm of course joined by the UK's #1 competitive eater of food, of course. It's my co-host, Beard Meets Food!
In the words of the Backstreet Boys, oh my god, we're back again.
Yeah, well, it's been like, for us, it's been like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, for some reason, if this pops up and you haven't listened to episode 12, or this is your first time listening to us, hi, thanks for listening. We're doing this back to back. So this is part 2 of sort of like a double bill episode. They're not related. The last film was completely different to this film that we've chosen to do. And if it sounds like we're flagging, or if it sounds like Beard's about to pass out, it's because he's not really eating all day, because it's one of his days from eating, and we've just been locked in Beard HQ, bashing them out. The podcast, that is, not anything else. It might go off the rails a little bit, just because we might end up going a bit delirious, so we do apologise. So technically, at the time of this episode being released, if you are one of our avid followers, and again, thank you, we appreciate you.
Thanks for being avid. Appreciate it.
You will have had episode 12, The Equalizer, with Denzel Washington. You'll have had a week off because it will have coincided with my week off from work. And also, Beard will be traversing his way around Toronto, still jollying it about around Toronto.
Traversing? I hope I'm not going to be doing much of that. It's going to be mostly by...
minimal movement.
by vehicle, yeah. But, yeah, I'll be a boot, eh?
Eh?
Don't be offended if you're from Canada.
Yeah, sorry. If you're Canadian, we're two blokes from Yorkshire, you could probably try and mimic us. Yeah, we don't mind. So yeah, he's in Canada at the time, not the time of recording. Just to get that clear, he's sat right next to me at the moment. We're recording these in advance of when he goes to Canada on
People don't
Monday.
really need to know this, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm just filling the space. But we decided that because of that, and if you don't read the episodes when you click on them, or you didn't understand the quote from the beginning, the movie quote, we are doing a giant, quite both literally and in the sort of like the metaphorical sense, of Canadian comedy and acting. It is the late great John Candy in Uncle Buck.
Yeah, indeed.
So
yeah.
I was waiting for Beard to sort of weigh in, and he just stared at me.
No, it just took forever for you to say we're doing Uncle Buck. Yeah, Uncle Buck is what we are doing. A very iconic piece of 80s cinema.
It is indeed. It's also one that a lot of people grew up on. Fun fact, again, he's going to throw me across the table, but this is only the second time of watching for me. I watched this for the first time about 3 or 4 months ago. Didn't quite rate it as much the first time. And as I explained to Beard before we got set up, the reason that I didn't rate it is I just wasn't quite paying attention, and then it was hard to put myself in.
You had your phone out. You were designing some film fella or movie mouthfuls merch on fucking Teespring or whatever.
Yep.
And you weren't enjoying John Candy.
I wasn't in the zone,
fullest.
and with it being an iconic sort of 80s film, and it being at the time, most of my friends that have watched this, and probably Beard himself when he watched it the first time, will have been a lot younger. I couldn't quite put myself in that mindset of being like a kid. I was just looking at it as a 28-year-old bloke and being like, what is this? But then watching it again for this episode, I was like, this is actually really bloody good. Like, it's actually grown on me a lot. So should we talk about it?
Well, I hope so. Unless we're just going to sit in silence for the next
that was
minutes.
my nudge. Should we get onto the general chit-chatty stuff?
Let's do the general chit-chatty stuff.
That might be the quickest intro that we've ever had. 5 minutes. Whoop, straight in.
It felt good.
You're flagging, so I'm gonna take the lead here a little bit. So, Uncle Buck, 1989, directed by John Hughes. John Hughes of such greats as Planes, Trains and Automobiles, Weird Science, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, and 16 Candles.
Oh man, what a bunch of great movies.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, The Breakfast Club has got some semblance of food. We should definitely
Yeah,
be
we're
doing
definitely
that,
going to do that at some point,
especially
yeah.
considering the name as well. Ferris Bueller's probably got some food in it as well, if I hark back and try to remember when I last watched that.
Probably.
Great film. Yeah, is there else you want to say about John Hughes, or should we move on to cast? Have I nailed it there?
No, I don't
He
know
did those
John
great
Hughes that
films.
well. I don't know his Starbucks order or anything. I don't have any trivia about him. So yeah, let's
He
move
probably
on
gets
to the
like
cast.
Hughesy written on his cup or something like that, I'm imagining.
Hughesy was here.
Cast. So you've got John Candy as Uncle Buck.
The late great, as you said.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. Just like in that little pocket of like sort of 80s and 90s, like when I was growing up, films.
Yeah, one of those guys that when you're a kid, obviously you don't kind of commit film to memory and,
No,
and
you
stuff
don't.
like
You
that.
just recognise
But
that
you
big
recognise
guy.
people, yeah, and he was a larger than life character in more ways than one.
Yeah, it sounded like a great guy. It was terrible sort of passing. I didn't look into. I can't remember. Did he die of like a heart attack or something to that effect?
I think so.
Yeah. Rest in peace, John. But he's for a lot of people like us, 90s and 80s kids, he's part of our childhood. And yeah, he was Canadian, which is why we're doing this episode, because Adam will be in Canada, probably listening to this right now. Hi, Adam, if you're listening to it in the future.
I definitely won't be listening to this, I can tell you that.
Macaulay Culkin, I believe one of his earliest or first roles, I can't quite remember which, playing Miles Russell. I believe that this film set up him being in the following year, being in Home Alone.
Yep.
Based on that one scene where he sat at the letterbox asking for a driver's license before she comes in.
He's amazing. This, I mean, Macaulay Culkin. Before we dive super deep into to everything, Macaulay Culkin is just, as a kid, he was such a precocious talent. He's better at acting in this than I think it's Gene Kelly who plays the eldest daughter.
Yeah,
who gives Buck a hard time. Her acting's a bit wooden, but like next to Macaulay Culkin, it was fucking 15 years younger than her or something. Maybe not 15, 10
he
years
holds his
younger.
own, doesn't he? He's decent, and like it's still got that kind of soft sort of woodeny around the edges. Like he's not quite perfect, but because of that, it's more believable that he's like this.
I believe him entirely as a kid, and like his delivery is really good. A lot of them are written gags, right?
Yeah.
But he's just great in it.
He nails it, and like you've just mentioned, so Jean Louisa Kelly as Tia, so the older, the one that's kind of gone slightly gothic, which we can all attest to.
She's dressed like a fucking beatnik or something. She's been reading too much Jack Kerouac or something, man. She's got like some weird Van Helsing hat on at some point.
It's an interesting vibe. She's just been different, isn't she? She's kind of. I imagine that she'd probably be listening to The Cure.
I can imagine you
that.
doing that when you were like 14. You put some kind of blue streaks in your hair or something. And
I dyed my hair. I did all sorts. Yeah,
while you listened to Paramore or some shit.
Yeah. Those days, my chem.
No,
still do.
never.
It's not you saying it like I've grown out of it.
No, I always like cool music, but whatever.
Gabby Hoffman as Maisie Russell. Amy Magden as Janice Kablowski, who's his sort of love interest, I guess.
Casual girlfriend, it's implied.
She wants more.
Yeah.
Like, clearly she wants more.
I was getting I watched this with Mrs. Beard. You would not believe the fucking death stares I was getting when she was mentioning like kids to him and commitment and Mrs. I mean, we're engaged, but she's looking across at me and I'm just like this, looking straight forward at the TV. I'm not making eye contact.
Elaine Bromker as Cindy Russell, who is the mother, who's probably the least likable person in this film. I'm not going to lie. I mean, she's kind of got to be a...
She's a cunt.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yes,
I don't often use
that.
the C word, but she is... you don't like her in this film.
He's acted awfully in the sense that she's awful. It's a bit like... we do hark back to it a lot, but like that Burn episode with Bradley Cooper where they're playing a twat on purpose to an extent, but it just becomes the point where you just hate the character regardless of the fact that you are very much aware that is the role they're supposed to be playing. Wasn't her biggest fan. Then you've got Garrett M. Brown as Bob Russell, who's the father, who's not really in it that much either. That's it. I didn't really delve into the back catalogue of films. Come on, folks, you know what Macaulay Culkin's been in and what he's been through. And John Candy, we've just mentioned lots of John Hughes films. And, if you've not watched Kiss the Lucky Egg Man, which we could probably do, and that wasn't like...
Was that you supposed to be doing Cool Runnings?
That was me doing Cool Runnings, yeah.
I ain't
Feel the
kissing no
rhythm,
egg,
feel the
man.
rhyme. Anyway, I'm not going to butcher that too much longer, but yeah, that's another fantastic film. I was made to watch that film like about 700 times in primary school. As like,
Man, doesn't
we're going to put the videotape on.
does it make you kind of get teary-eyed when they're carrying the bobsled over the line?
It's a great film. All of it is just fantastic. Like whether you're watching it as a kid or now, like I still cry. It's okay to
Well,
cry.
no, I didn't actually cry. I'm saying, I got a little emotional. You went too far.
Oh no, I cried.
Oh, no,
Okay, let's play that fun game that everyone knows us for on the internet. That one that's really, really creative, and we came up with just on the spot one episode. It's budget and box office, folks. We've still haven't got a jingle because we've recorded this back to back.
Yeah, no, well, you did one like a cappella last time.
I'm not doing it this time. Budget and box office.
You started off like Barry White and then ended off.
Yeah, I don't know.
Beastie
We'll
Boys.
get someone who's actually a professional to do it.
Oh, okay.
Or my friend, who's not quite a professional, but he's good. Anyway, budget.
All right, I forgot that's the part where I guess.
Yeah, it's your turn. It's always your turn.
Oh, it's tough because it's so long ago now. I still think of the 80s as 20 years ago when it's actually fucking 40 years ago.
I was -4 when this film came out, just to make you feel old.
89. I was 4. So I was getting there. I'm starting to become self-realized. But I'm gonna say off the bat 30 million. 25 million. 20. No, I'm going to stick with my original guess, 30 million.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I was just about to say, so you doubled it. You went, actually, technically, kind of by default, right? Because, like, of marketing, that old rule of thumb, like, double the budget is the marketing. Although maybe that wasn't true in the 80s. Maybe it was much less on marketing. Who knows? But it's $15 million is the budget. Box office.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's critically well acclaimed, but I don't know how it performed at the time. I think John Candy was a bit of a power back then. So I'm going to say 70 mil.
Oh, God. You're getting good at this. So, box office is, estimated globally at $79 million.
Oh, is that the closest I've been yet to a box?
I don't know. We'd have to listen back and figure out, and I haven't done that yet. And we literally just recorded one like 20 minutes ago. So, yeah, that was budget and box office, folks. Are you astounded by that low budget and that? It's not a flop. It's a success, I guess, in this sense. For 1989, it's probably a decent going. I think it was number one at one point.
Yeah, you think about movies are kind of like football players now, right? I remember when like 30 million for a football player was vast amounts of money, right?
Yeah, in Rio Ferdinand days.
Yeah,
Leeds
I was thinking more like
Manchester.
Robinho when he signed for Man City instead of when he thought he was signing for Man United. But yeah, what I mean is it's hard to adjust, isn't it? Even for inflation and stuff because the industry's changed so much. But I don't think that does not surprise me much. I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
No. Even though I was 100% off. But in monetary terms, what 50 million, 30 million?
Ballpark figure.
Yeah.
Guesstimate. Should we do facts?
Yeah, there might be some fun ones about Uncle Buck, surely.
Oh dear. So, during Miles's interrogation of Uncle Buck, John Candy wrote out the script's dialogue and wore it atop his head so Macaulay Culkin could read the lines more quickly and keep pace of the scenes very fast.
That's sneaky. That's because I remember that I was thinking at the time, I was like, that is I knew it was cut.
It's
right?
good,
It's a
isn't
quick
it?
cut, but it is a great little scene when
Back
it's
to
like
back.
a really quick kind of quick fire interrogation. It's great.
Apparently his record as well, when he asked him what's your record for consecutive questions, he goes 38.
Yeah.
This is really quickly. It's, apparently, I don't know if that was written or whether it was just him saying it, like Culkin coming up with it on the spot at quite a young age, but John Candy was 38 when he was doing this film, so...
Yeah, because he's playing a 30-year-old, isn't he, in this film?
Plays a 40-year-old and he's 38, so it's not...
Ah, I thought they say at some point in the film that he's 30.
Shaved 2 years off of him. Just to add as well that IMDb fact that I found has in brackets note that this would be taken off the scene when the camera was set for close-ups of Miles. So basically, they would take the notes off of his head. Like obviously,
You just could leave it in there.
leave it in there. This is quite an interesting, it's kind of fact. I'm not sure where you want to take it, but one night during filming, John Candy went to a bar with music supervisor Tarkin Gotch and spent most of the night meeting people there. The next day, John Hughes heard a caller on radio radio talk excitedly describing his evening with Candy. Hughes was upset with Candy, and despite Candy's assertion that Buck was supposed to appear dishevelled, Hughes cancelled his scenes for the day and told him to get himself together and get home for some sleep.
Wow.
She's
He played hard.
Interesting, because John Candy is obviously a larger-than-life kind of comedic bloke and was supposed to be very, quite a nice guy. Clearly, by the sounds of it, other than him having a heavy night of drinking, he went and chatted with all just the regular folk down at the bar. And then John Hughes has produced and directed all of these very feel-good family films. So I wouldn't expect them to clash like that. That was kind of the thing that I took away from that he's
but if he
cracked the whip.
If John Hughes thinks he's not working properly, I mean, there's, regardless of how daft what it is that you're doing, there's some, look at my videos, man. There are points in time you got to get the game face on, and when you're setting up and stuff, and make sure everything goes reasonably well for the sake of producing something which in the end is supposed to make people laugh. But I feel like we've kind of gone ahead with the facts without doing the synopsis of the film, which might be kind of key.
Good point. I mean, I'm all out of interesting facts now, which is probably most
that was
weeks,
it,
to be honest.
But Uncle Buck, one of the most iconic fucking cult 80s
well, you start
films
doing
there
the
is.
synopsis, because I have something else that I was going to look at for facts. We've got some different facts related to the food scene later as well. They're a bit off the beaten track.
Yeah, you got some of those. You gave me a little teaser earlier on.
Synopsis of Uncle Buck, then hit us with it in case we've, like me, missed it until this point in the life.
Right, Uncle Buck. So it's essentially a comedy, right? Situational family comedy. I don't know what rating it got when it was released. I would imagine I guess 12 didn't
PG. There is some
PG.
sexually explicit references.
They're not explicit. They're
No, we
implicit,
don't
aren't
mean.
they? Doyle them. Anyway, yeah, it's about a kind of a. It's essentially it felt a little bit like a life story to me. I was looking at. I don't look like John Candy, but it did feel a bit like a biopic, because it's about just a total slacker dude that's supposed to be almost 40, can't really hold down a job. It's implied that he has a job but very rarely turns up to it, and they for some reason tolerate that. He lives in an apartment which he doesn't own. It's kind of implied that he doesn't really have his shit together. And what happens at the beginning of the film is the family that you're introduced to, including Macaulay Culkin amidst others. The parents of that family, the wife, her father is informed via telephone. She's informed via telephone call in the middle of the night that her father's had a heart attack. For some reason, both parents have got to go, leaving the kids in the household. But obviously, they need somebody to watch the kid, and rather than just leave one of the parents behind, which was what I was thinking at the time, they have to try and get something. They want to basically get anyone apart from Buck, because he's this kind of unseemly character. The wife, the husband's wife, I don't even know what the character's called, but the wife, the matriarch doesn't really like him much. He's not left a good impression upon her in their interactions socially. But he's the last throw of the dice, right? So they get him involved, and he comes to watch the kids, and it's essentially about how the relationship, the problems that these kids have, which maybe you might not necessarily be acutely aware of from the start, being part of this family life. How Uncle Buck, he looks like a fuck up, but because of his influence, he he improves the quality of these kids' lives, respectively, in some way.
I would agree with that. I think one of my main takeaways from this, which I sort of hinted at on episode 12, if you are a listener who's come back for more, hi again. I mentioned, and you pulled a bit of a face during that episode, that I think that both characters have got a very good sort of moral standing. So even though on the surface and based on the matriarch of the family's opinion of Uncle Buck, actually everything that he does is morally sound, and what you would want a carer to actually do, whether he doesn't know what he's doing half the time and he's a bit like, he doesn't know how to do the washing or whatever, which there's probably people out there that don't know how to do that.
Yeah, like
everything that he does to do with looking after the kids or getting them through their day-to-day or actually looking after them and what he should and shouldn't be doing, he has quite a good moral standing.
He's one of those people you say his heart's in the right place. Yeah. Even though he's not. He's a little bit like this podcast actually. He's kind of cobbled together. It's a bit patchwork, but and it's
we
about.
mean well.
And the film essentially is about the comedic. It's a comedy, right? So it gives you some laughs along the way. The central kind of struggle is between the oldest daughter of the family, who, like we mentioned, is going through a bit of a... She's kind of
Rebellious
acting out.
phase, yeah.
She hates her mum and stuff at the beginning. It's implied.
I mean,
she,
I'd hate a mum as well.
Yeah, fair cop, but her mum is just...
A cow.
100% unlikable, yeah. But she's just angry at the world and stuff, and when she doesn't like the idea that books come because she thinks she can supervise the two younger children, Macaulay Culkin and whoever.
Yeah.
And it's about how he manages to kind of help her, if you think about it, where maybe her parents failed. And yeah, that's done through a series of misadventures along the way.
Yeah. Perfect summary. I was going to say, I've just delved onto 80skids.com/10 things you didn't know about Uncle Buck.
Oh, this sounds like it's 100% corroboratable.
You might like this fact, but yeah, I've given you the source. You can check it out for yourselves. But number 18, even though it says 10 things you didn't know about Uncle Buck, which is very interesting.
They found an additional 8 at least.
The movie actually spawned 2 ill-fated spin-offs. So Uncle Buck was so popular that executives created not 1 but 2 ill-fated spin-offs. The first aired from 1990 until 1991 and was created without any guidance from John Hughes. It featured none of the original cast members. In fact, it was so unpopular that John Hughes had no idea it had even been created until producers asked him if they could use some exterior footage from the movie.
Was it TV shows?
Yeah. James LeShaw also starred in a 2016 update of the movie, but it was cancelled after just 1 season. Not only this, but there was actually an Indian remake of the film entitled Uncle Bun.
Uncle Bun?
Uncle Bun, and then the 80s Kid website being a bit, cheeky, have put catchy next to it.
I mean, he likes his food.
He does. There's another fact that I got from this site that's to do with the actual scene that we're going to be talking about, so we'll leave it there. I couldn't find anything that was particularly to do with that or anything that was particularly interesting. So, yeah, sorry. It's a bit flat. These past 2 episodes have been hobbled together, like I said before, so,
No excuse.
I'll do some digging next time.
Quality, not quantity.
Folks, just go on IMDb Trivia and read them if you want. Shall we, have you got, before we move on to the food scene of all food scenes in this film, is there anything else that you want to talk about just in general in this film that you enjoy?
What else? No, I do enjoy the part where he talks about requiring a plunger because he's eaten. So he's got a newfound cheese addiction, which has really bunged him up. I could relate to that. I've never had to use a plunger, you believe it or not, but then I have actually quite powerful plumbing. So... No, we can move on.
Move on. I'm going to say the only other bits of food, just for people that are going to call us out on it. Well, no one ever has done, but I know that maybe one day someone might.
There's not just one. There's a lot of food in this movie.
Yeah. So there's the chips, as you Americans might call it. It's the crisps with the squeezy cheese that she's eating after she's come home from school. The little girl, she's eating them. We don't really have. I mean, you can buy squirty cheese here, but it's not
very
really
hard to get. I actually tried to get some for a video, and it was really hard to get. Cheese whiz, the really kind of vibrant orange, plasticky stuff,
glowy stuff.
Yeah, you can almost not get that anywhere. But yeah, there's that, and there's the Chinese food.
With the sort of debatable use of chopsticks from some members of the family.
The mum seems pretty skilled with them, though.
Yeah, she looks like someone who has a pair of chopsticks somewhere. Probably that's why she's so good with them. But yeah, Uncle Buck is having a pie at the diner, and he's not getting too excited about going to work with his girlfriend. And then she's on about wanting kids, and he goes, "I'll get you a mouse and a piece of sheet metal if you want for the little pit patter of feet."
Yeah, that had me rolling. And then Mrs. Bid, conversely, she was looking at me
daggers.
Give me a child.
Give me one. What else have we got? I enjoy McCulkin, the way he says balls at one point. He sounds a bit like young, very tiny Matthew McConaughey at one point, because he's like, the dog's a ball sniffer. And then he says he just accentuates the A's for ages, and then he walks away, and then he's trying to figure out what the other word for balls is, and just turns around and goes, nuts!
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Bless him. The bit with the clapper, the clap-on clapper scene, the notorious 80s gadgets turn your lights on, where he turns on the full apartment block with the clapper.
Yeah, he's got some, maybe he's an X-Man or something. He's got some mutant power, it's been untapped. He wires together electrical items.
He's trying to quit smoking, so he goes from stopping smoking, got a 6-year plan to go from that to cigars to pipes to chewing tobacco, then nicotine gum.
Yeah,
in a 6-year plan. I mean, cigar, it surely goes kind of backwards a little bit, and then to where he should be.
Yeah, he could cut out some steps there, couldn't he? I was thinking the other day, I'm going to try to keep the tangents to a minimum this time, But you reckon there's like a way to smoke a pipe without it being unhealthy? I don't mean like so. Is there a way I could just use a pipe which is modified in some way so I'm not smoking tobacco?
Don't know, but listeners, if you've got a way,
I'm not. I mean, like, I hate vaping. Like, it just comes across as totally cheap. If you're a vapist,
oh god,
that sounds worse when you say it like that.
People that use a vape, folks.
If you vape, don't get offended. I don't know, man. I don't like it. But if there was a way to do it, I just like pipes. I think they look really cool, especially if you have a beard.
Very is it ostentatious the correct word?
Well, they're over the top for sure.
Yeah.
I hate smoking though, so I would never want to do it.
I was going for another fist bump there after last episode. Ostentatious. Do we get a fist
I'll
bump?
give you one.
Bump. There we go.
I did the sound effect too, but yeah, maybe I could just get a pipe and just not put anything in it.
Just for look.
Just suck on the end like that.
I'll get you a monocle as well if you want.
Yeah, I'll take that idea back to the drawing board, and maybe I'll show up to the next episode. Come back from Canada with a pipe, like Christoph Waltz in
massive,
a really massive one. Yeah, it looks like a toilet.
Throwback to our Inglourious Bastards episode. I think it was episode 8. If you want to check that out.
It was number 8. I know it's the only episode I know because it was the best one. By which I mean the only good one.
Apart from this one's going to be the second or the new best one. Obviously,
totally,
other scenes, other foods. Before we get to the food scene, so there's the singing at breakfast scene when he's first there, which is a couple of things to take away from this. Not just the food, which we'll discuss in a second, but also McCulkin's "Who are you?" when he comes down the stairs, like whoa, like this is a giant man in his kitchen, which is probably how if you've never seen John Candy before in your because obviously that's kind of what he's supposed to be emulating, I guess. He just slides into the kitchen, doesn't he? This very tiny young boy sees this giant hulking man. Just the delivery of that just blew me away. Yeah. And again, it's like the believability of him just being kind of like a young kid. It's like, holy smokes, he's cooking out garbage as well. Which maybe some people sometimes maybe watch your cooking at home challenges where you mash 2 random foods together and like, oh my god, what is he doing?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Did you take any ideas of what his signature speciality breakfast is?
I'd be honest, I couldn't really figure it out. Maybe
it's weird, isn't it?
Maybe it's getting bad eyes.
There's a giant grapefruit, which I'd be worried if you didn't see that.
Wait, yeah, no.
You can see that.
Like, and with the omelette.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's an omelette or like scrambled eggs, but he's got like eggs with like mushrooms, and then he mentions that he's put onions in it, and it's like a really burnt slice of toast. It's just like, nah. Like, sorry, Uncle Buck. I mean, the food scene we're about to talk about looks delicious, but the actual, the breakfast he makes, to try and first impressions, he's putting like, as well, it looks like he's putting like Worcestershire sauce in it, and some sort of like mayo. Like he's just like throwing things in and having a sing song whilst he's doing it. Done. What are you doing, mate?
I'd partake of it. I'd
probably eat it. We should do the Uncle Buck terrible breakfast challenge.
Yeah.
I say you should do it.
My grandma eats, I don't know if she still does, she used to eat grapefruit for breakfast now and then.
People do, don't they? I think
it's fucking horrible, grapefruit. Well, not horrible. I mean, it's if I were to list fruits, it would be, I don't know how many fruits there are in the universe, but it would be, I imagine it'd be in the bottom 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Sorry, grapefruit. All those people on Weight Watchers would be like, what? Grapefruit's
how
great.
How dare you? Just some other bits, just to reference any possible food. Cereal out of a box on the sofa. We've all done that at some stage, I think, in our lives. Maybe.
Nah, not me. I love cereal, but it's nothing without milk on it.
Yeah, true.
Or double cream, as I sometimes do in old
as
videos.
As a kid, I've eaten like handfuls of cereal. Like he's just eating a box of Frosties, isn't he, on the sofa?
Yeah.
And then the lunch where he goes, "Is anybody interested in a possible trade? A lunch trade?" Is it like proper, like matter of fact play? Does McCulkin? And he's got like I didn't really properly see what it looks like. It's like an aubergine. Like it's either a packet of lard / butter / cheese, and then like a bottle of milk. And some other things. Like, it's just the most eclectic mix of like random shit that you could put in a child's lunchbox.
It reminded me a little bit of that. I don't know which came from, probably the Uncle Buck. Yeah, it would have been the Uncle Buck thing. But there's this episode of The Simpsons where Homer's where Marge kind of moves away or she goes on holiday or something. And he just picks a bunch of shit up from the cupboard and like puts it together. And it reminded me a bit of that, yeah.
I have to do like every so often just pick a random Simpsons food item from an episode. And
that could be a whole other series, man, yeah.
We said it and TV at the beginning. We'll have to do it at some point. That's it. Is there what else you want to talk about in general about the film. I'm a big fan of we mentioned it before. I said first time I watched it, I didn't really pick up on some of the adult references, but there's the bit where he's trying to fix the washing machine. I mean, do people not lock the doors in houses anymore? Because the neighbour just like pops in randomly, and then to be blunt, the noises that he's making, what he's saying, wanting to put in a big load or something like that into it, which is all like if you're a kid watching it, you would be like, oh, he's clearly talking about the washing machine. But as an adult, she thinks that he's giving someone a rattling in the utility cupboard. Giving someone a rattle? I mean, I've used some odd euphemisms. Oh, yeah, you don't want to say the word sex. He's shagging someone in the utility closet. Yeah, but I've never said give someone a... Is that what you say to Abby when you're at home and you sat there watching you're watching like Shang-Chi or one of your new comic book Black Panther? And that's some good pronunciation. A lot of people say Shang-Chi and I have to correct them. Check you out. I'm reasonably eloquent. You put your... I'm seeing this now, this scene in my head. You put your hand on her lap and you say... Can we not take this podcast in that direction? I noticed... Darling, do you fancy a rattling? And she looks across at you, slaps you plumb in the face, and you don't get any more rattlings for the next fucking 3 months. Anyway, moving on. I also enjoyed the where he rings her up because he misses his partner, his girlfriend, the one that's wanting to be more than just his sort of bit on the side. And about him naming her dimples on her butt cheeks, Lyndon and Johnson. Yeah. That's the president, that's correct, isn't it? Yeah, and then Minnie and Mickey for her boobs. And then we was laughing earlier before recording this about about to mention another anatomy part of hers called Felix, but then it cuts to a cat being in the house randomly and you hear the meow, and he like chucks the cat out of the house because it's not... Should have recorded one of my cats for a... That was a pretty good meow. I talk to my cats all the time, like in their language. I'm a lunatic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the... Well, it's not everything. There's loads of amazing scenes in Uncle Buck, but that's all the bits that I'm willing to talk about. Is there anything that you want to add to that? That feels like you just listed a bunch of shit there. I do love the scene. Probably my favourite scene in that film is when he meets he's given the responsibility of meeting at what you assume is some kind of like parents' evening at the school. Yes, yeah, that is great as well. Yeah. And it's really again you talked about Buck's moral compass or sense of morality in general, and he goes to the young the middle child, I think it's kind of implied. Yeah. Who's like 6, and she's at school, and he goes to her parents' evening or kind of appraisal, and he meets the head teacher, she's a little bit austere to say the least. She's pretty strict, pretty wooden, and she goes on a bit of a rant saying that this child will never amount to anything. She's a dreamer. She's a silly heart. Yeah. And she's talking about a 6-year-old. So Buck says, quite caustically back to her, says, I don't think I ever want to know a child that isn't a dreamer, that isn't a silly heart, Which talks to, like we were saying before, this film people have grown up watching, so like kids will gravitate to all the slapstick funny stuff in the film when you're growing up, but obviously maybe if you're a bit more like switched on at if you were like a 6-year-old watching it at the time, so you've seen all the funny bits, but then him like defending, go colour outside the lines, or like, be creative or do whatever, which he's got a lot of very good messages that he puts out in this film, and I think it's really, really harsh that the mother-in-law just hates him because he does a few things that she hates him because he doesn't conform to what her idea of proper is, right? She's a snob. Like, she's out and out a snob, right? She doesn't like the fact that he doesn't live by a defined set of rules. So she would probably have fucking hated me. Like, if I would be her uncle. But in fact, when we were watching it, Lynn said to me, she was like, that's like the mother of the family is how my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law reacts to me. Like, he just thinks I'm a fucking loser. He probably wouldn't leave me alone with their kid. So, yeah, but you relate to Buck on that level because he's still worth something, man. It's not just the fact that just because he doesn't want to work behind a desk his whole life. Yeah. And he drives a shit car. The Beast, apparently it was called. That was one of my facts that I had down, but I didn't bother reading it out because I thought you'd be like, Right, and I love him punching the clown too. I mean, I would love to punch a clown. So we'll lead into that. So shall we talk about the scene? Which I thought you were about to wrap up the fucking podcast. And that's all, folks. No, we're gonna lead into that just to stretch out the food scene. You stretched out the stretch out. So shall we chuck a chug in there? Oh yeah, I totally forgot the fucking chug. Go on. love a good chug.
But it was weird that I was drinking. I was drinking at the bottle. I was chugging as the chuggy thing came on.
So, scene in question, the giant pancake scene. The scene that I wasn't a child when I watched this, but I imagine if I was, I'd be like, Mum, Dad, I want pancakes. My parents never made pancakes. Like something that I made when I got older.
What, they never made you pancakes on Pancake Day?
No, they made pancakes as in like, over here, we don't really have like the American fluffy pancakes, do we? We have
more crepes.
Crepes, sort of like almost like a flat Yorkshire pudding sort of pancake.
But they made you those at least.
Oh, I had them. We just never. They're not monsters.
I was going to say what you brought
we never had
workhouse.
We never had American like pancakes for breakfast type thing. That was not something that my parents would have ever been like, oh yeah.
I was imagining your youth was like something from a Charles Dickens novel. Then
no, my parents are great. I know they're not listening, but we'll say it anyway.
Your mum's great. Your mum is definitely great. Met her once.
Anyway, giant pancake scene. So I came to this thinking, I bet they've got some really interesting facts about filming Uncle Buck and how they made this scene. Turns out they didn't. I have watched, we've mentioned him many a time, but I have watched Binging with Babish's attempt at making this giant pancake, and the way that they do it is it's absolutely sensational. The way that they actually make a pancake of such size.
I didn't know he'd done it. That's not an
he's
episode
done
I've
it,
seen.
yeah, he's done it. I don't know if it was like, obviously, it won't be this, but like when you do like your 100,000 subscriber special.
I imagine it would have been a special,
1 million,
yeah.
It's one of his, I'm sure, but they went and I'm pretty sure they built like a facility big enough to do the pancake. I'm sure it was him. Sure it was. They made a stack.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. So I thought, I'll find some pancake-related facts and some information regarding this said pancake, because really, the scene in itself is just a giant pancake. He goes, let's separate the men from the boys. I got you now, as he's trying to like wrangle with it with what looks like a snow shovel.
He has to flip it with a snow shovel because it's so big, yeah.
And then it's Macaulay Culkin's character's birthday, so he's made like again another sign that this guy does kind of have his shit together when it comes to like looking after kids, and like he would be a great dad, and like he is a solid bloke because he's got all the streamers out, he's got all that, and he's made this giant stack, like this picture perfect stack of giant pancakes. And then the final bit that he says is, you should have seen the toast. I couldn't even get it through the door. Like that. And I'm just like, what a sweetheart, what a guy. That then leads on to your drunken clown thing, which we'll come back to. But let's talk pancakes for a bit, because I know.
Sure, I love pancakes.
We'll talk about that. Me too. I've got, folks, I mean, I can't really do any kind of like noise, but there's a stack of very, very cold pancakes next to me here, and I did bring some maple syrup as well, which is leaked onto the table by the looks of it.
Thanks
Sorry,
for that.
Beard.
Thanks for that. I'll get
sticky table. But yes, pancakes. So the most eaten in 8 minutes, the record stands for 113 pancakes from your old pal, Matt Stoney.
Sounds like Stonebone. He's, that would, I mean... You have to get my approval before we start the podcast to mention his... No, I'm joking. Good pal of mine.
He's dead to me. No, he's like...
Good pal of mine, Matt. Yeah, he was a lad man back then when we was smashing the MLE scene.
Syrup on these pancakes. Got to have authenticity and eat pancakes.
What do I just do, like a biography of Matt Stoney while you're doing that or something?
Yeah, if you can explain the record. How do you reckon you
No,
manage that out? Do you think you could challenge that? Do you think that's
he would have blasted me on that. They were little silver dollar ones, or like the ones that you've got there.
Yeah, so I've got like a little Americanized pancake. This is the maple syrup lid, just if you don't believe me. I could take pictures, but like you don't want to see
it. Normally he cheaps out, but this is actual real maple syrup. It's not like some kind of awful treacle.
Yeah. Oops, I'm spilling it everywhere. Sorry, mate.
You're making a total mess of Beard HQ here. I have to set the place on fire. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, there's silver dollar pancakes, so I could do a lot of them. But I mean, that amount, would you do over 110 minutes is solid. Maybe I'd be around the 80 or something.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, one will be better. By the way, I'm talking about the pancakes, not his fact. You never thought you'd gonna attempt it? Maybe try it, or is it just no?
That one, I don't think that contest exists anymore. Some of these contests, they kind of, some of them are stalwarts and they're around for years. Others are kind of occasional. But no, I mean, I would totally do that one because I'm actually pretty strong with carbohydrates, and something like a pancake does not require much technique. So I would totally do it. But the last season I did, 2019 pre-COVID, there was no pancake contest. There was an able skeever contest, which is like a little pancake ball, but it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, so it was like 3 planes away or something.
Right. Okay.
So I couldn't be bothered, basically. Long story short, I thought I would go to an easier one where there's a bigger payout.
Do you want some Guinness Book of World Record pancake facts?
Not really, because I fucking hate Guinness.
I know you do. You mentioned it before, but we'll mention them anyway because it just pads this out a bit, I guess.
Sure. Let me guess the first one. Like most pancakes eaten while hopping on one foot to dancing to fucking Dexys Midnight Runners. Is that in there?
It's not. That's that's awfully specific. Is that one that you want to break?
You could just make them up, can't you? You can just do what you want.
So this one is the largest pancake. So the largest pancake was created in Rochdale, Manchester, UK, in 1994. Still stands apparently.
Good Lord.
Not the pancake, obviously. It had gone off ages ago. By the Cooperative Union Limited, measuring at 15.1 metres, which is 49 feet and 3 inches in diameter, and 2.5 centimetres, so 1 inch thick. The pancake weighed 3 tons, which is 6,614 pounds, and took more than just a frying pan to flip over. So they're implying that obviously you would see the image on the website that I'm looking at. It's like 2 cranes that they had to use to flip it over.
Wow. Well, how did they cook it?
I have literally no idea. That's like your biggest question about the Uncle Buck one, isn't it? I think you should go check out that binging with Babish video and see how he did it.
I know how you could cook one. I just don't know how in Uncle Buck it's already cooked and it's on the damn. It's on the kitchen counter.
Yeah, it just appears, doesn't it? Like
maybe he slapped it like that video we mentioned. He slapped it enough times to cook it.
Slapped it like 6,000 times.
It would probably be more messy though if you just slapped a bunch of pancake mix together.
Most tosses of a pancake in 1 minute. So the fastest flipper may well be Australian celebrity chef Brad Jolly. Don't know why it says may well be. Like, is it implying that he didn't break the record? Who knows?
I can't believe you didn't say fastest tosser.
Yeah, pretty good. Who holds the record for most tosses of a pancake in 1 minute, notching up a so far unbeatable 140 flips in 60 seconds during an event in Sydney in 2012?
He probably is an absolutely cracking tosser because, like, to have the wrist strength to do that, takes something
exceptional.
Yeah,
exceptional. The highest pancake toss was by Dominic Kuzakria. Made a monumental flip measuring 9.47 metres, which is 31 feet and 1 inch, at the Walden Galleria Mall in Cheektowaga, New York, USA in November 2010. Pretty sure I butchered wherever that location was. But yeah, that's a pretty high flip, man. High toss even.
I've been there. Cheektowaga.
Cheektowaga, you've been there?
Yeah.
Any good? You see like a giant pancake just stuck on like a I don't know, skyscraper building.
I think I had a pizza challenge there, actually. One that you won money at as well. I think I won like $100. Or it was a team. It's like $150. I think. I'm almost certain I did. It's near Buffalo, I think.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
Which is also kind of near Canada. You know, Niagara Falls and all that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what other facts we could do. Most people tossing pancakes. The most people tossing a pancake in the air. So the biggest collection of tossers ever recorded. There you go. I've got one in. Of course, it's in the UK as well. It's 890. Was achieved at an event organised by the University of Sheffield in Sheffield, UK, back in 2012. While a total of 930 participants attended, 40 flippers had to be discounted due to either dropping their pancake or not managing to toss their pancake within the allotted time.
That is the most... I'm completely ambivalent to that fact. That's terrible. I almost went to the University of Sheffield, though.
I so did I, actually, yeah.
Happy as fook that I didn't, because it's an absolute shithole of a place, Sheffield.
Apart from if you live in Sheffield and you listen to the podcast, we love you.
And if you're Sean Bean, because if Sean Bean listens to this, which I'm sure he doesn't, but if
One
he does...
day, he might.
Oh, man, I would love to do
film and food.
I would love to do a video. Like, forget the podcast, man. I want to do a video with Sean Bean. Before I die, if I could do that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm all for. Can I attend said video just to see him, please?
Yeah, you have to do something though, like you operate a camera or something.
Lens cap still on or something like that. Right, okay, I'm gonna move on because otherwise this turns into a pancake podcast, and that's not what we are. Do you want to know how to make? You mentioned not in terms of how to actually make it because I couldn't tell you. You don't understand how Buck has managed to, cook it. But do you want to know the ingredients? In case you do decide to make a giant
eggs,
one.
And milk?
Oh, yeah, no, obviously. But you would need to use 300 grams of plain flour, 200 grams of caster sugar, 450 millilitres of milk, 9 medium free-range eggs, 100 grams of unsalted butter, and 15 grams of vegetable oil.
To make the one in the Uncle Buck movie?
Apparently. This is what I've just read this. This is,
We're
this
coming
isn't
back
me.
to that ill-prepared thing again.
This is coming from the 80s kids website that we were on about before. Let me just make sure that this is literally what they have said.
No chance.
It's kilograms, maybe?
But you probably wouldn't read that. No.
No, you wouldn't. What the hell are they on about?
Maybe grams, but they've missed a zero off the end or something. I don't
Because
know.
it literally says here, you'll need to buy 300 grams of plain flour, 200 grams of caster sugar, 450 ml, which all sounds like regular sort of, maybe to make a double batch of normal size pancakes.
Basically, add a zero to the end of all those ingredients.
Yeah, 450 milliliters of milk, 9 medium free-range eggs, 100 grams of unsalted. But yeah, they've missed a zero. They've got to, because 15 grams of vegetable oil, and then they've put yikes after it. Like, that's like a terrible amount of... They've missed a zero. Because apparently, the grand total, it would make 3 very large pancakes, enough to feed 10 people.
So they've just basically done a simple pancake recipe.
And then got it wrong completely, and I've read it out wrong. So, cheers to the 80s kids website.
We're not coming back to you.
We're not coming back to you. And then, yeah, the clown bit. You love the clown bit. We'll round it out by just talking about the clown. So, yeah, again, proving that he's a morally sound bloke, his Uncle Buck. He doesn't want a drunken clown.
But I did think, this is what I was thinking when you said he's morally sound. I did think, is morally sound punching a clown in the face? Regardless of his...
Protecting the kids.
Yeah, but I mean, he after he's made these pancakes for Macaulay Culkin's birthday, he's booked a clown, or I think his mum had booked a clown before she left, and this clown turns up and he's he's hungover.
Been to a bachelorette party and turns around and says, "If you need any dildo jokes, I'm your guy." I'm pretty sure he says dildo, which is a bit of a shock that in what's basically a kids' film, that he just drops the word dildo in there like quite quickly.
Yeah, you wouldn't make that joke, would you, if you're a kid? If you're a clown specifically for kids, even if there were no kids there and at that moment in time because he's outside the house. But yeah, Uncle Buck resolves to just smack him in the face. He thinks, "Fuck this, man! I can't deal with this type of clown."
With the comical sort of noise.
And he comes back. He kind of rocks back and then comes back up, which means either Uncle Buck can't punch, or this clown is to some degree elastic. I think I rubberized the clown.
Which would be really worrying, because that implies he's got some sort of like superpower. You just can't beat him up.
He's like Mr. Fantastic.
But yeah, that's it, folks. That's the pancake scene. It always, I've only watched it recently, but it made me want to have giant pancakes. I don't know about you.
I get that request so often. Like when I start, it's rarer now because I've not really been doing too many like homemade giant things, right? But whenever I do, people will be like, "Oh, please do the pancakes from Uncle Buck," and I would love to do them. I just don't know how. I think you would probably need a massive pizza oven, and I'd end up losing my head because I wouldn't be able to flip it, and I'd be too stressed about flipping it and breaking it.
Yeah.
So unless you could design a device which kind of grills it from the top and bottom somehow.
Are you asking our listeners?
If there are any engineers out there, I know there are lots of YouTube channels where they make.
I've been trying to send
stuff.
you in your PO box this giant pancake cooker / flipper.
Well, maybe you don't send it to me, but if you've got one, you could potentially invite me to where it's at.
God, there you go. You can get inundated with engineers offering.
Yeah.
What else do you want to say about Uncle Buck? This could be our shortest episode yet if we round it out now.
But that's not a bad thing. That's an achievement if you ask me.
Yeah, we've done 2 back to back and we're both slowly losing his minds. But yeah, watch it, folks. If you've not watched it, don't be like me and wait until you're 28 to watch it. Watch it. I mean, if you're older than me, then you've already surpassed that, haven't you, I guess? But watch it.
Watch it for the genius of John Candy, a really kind of a young and talented Macaulay Culkin, and the rest are pretty middling cast, which don't really do much. But the story's good, it's heartwarming. It could be like a Christmas movie almost. I wish that if they'd done a sequel, it would have been cool to do one like at Christmas or something. I'm surprised they didn't actually. I know you said it was bogged down in a little bit of they made some unsuccessful spin-offs and all that shit.
Yeah.
But like I'm surprised, especially at that time when sequels were a big earner for studios, late 80s, early 90s. I'm surprised it didn't get a sequel.
He passed in 94, didn't he? So maybe there was a chance for a sequel. Yeah,
it makes it even more sad.
I know. R.I.P. John Candy.
Did you just like stretch your arm out to try and give me a cuddle? And
no, I was
fiddling with your pocket.
just sorting me back out. But I mean, if you want a cuddle, we'll do it off podcast, mate.
Okay.
Should we go to the outro?
Let's.
I didn't really highlight the fact that I brought pancakes in today, but they were a bit dry. I feel like just left them.
Normally, when you bring the food, you're not shy, and you've probably had like 2 mouthfuls there. Eddie Hall would have eaten more than you. And
I'll eat them before I go home. It'll be my before I get back in car and get booted out of Beard HQ, I'll quickly snack on them.
Yeah, you can lick all that fucking maple syrup off the table too.
Oh, can't wait. So yeah, that is episode 13. So if you are just joining us and you've skipped to this bit, which is a bit weird, I'm not going to lie, folks, why would you do that? We have just recorded back-to-back 12 and 13 and put a 1 week break in between because Beard is traversing Canada.
You said that last time, man. I ain't doing no traversing. If I'm traversing it, I'm doing it in a vehicle. Do you know how big Canada is? What do you think? I'm going to get my fucking skates on and start fucking cross-country skiing and shit?
I thought that what you were going to do, like try and get from A to B across Canada, eating as you go. I don't bloody know what your plans
You think
are.
it's like Man versus Wild or something?
I'm just a bit jealous because I've never been to Canada and I would love to eat some authentic Canadian poutine. Would be my go-to.
Oh yeah, there'll be plenty of... Well, I will consume some poutine. I've got a shirt that says poutine on it, so I'll probably take that with me. I'll go back to the site of my performance in the 2019 World Poutine Eating Championships. Probably my favourite contest ever. Enjoyed that one. That was where I beat your boy Matt Stoney that I mentioned earlier on.
Can't handle his gravy like us Yorkshire lads, eh?
Exactly, that was a superpower in there. I said, make sure you put bags of gravy on this, lads. And that's what got me through.
Yeah, chips and gravy or just basically any kind of like stodgy carbohydrate type food with gravy seems to be...
Fun fact though, that was the only contest I've ever been at and been booed. When I entered, yeah. So they did an entrance thing, and it was on TV. It was like a little televised thing, and I do like a little jig as I'm walking because I was pretty confident going to that contest. I thought I'd do well,
like a boxer.
Yeah. Well, they introduce you, come out to the music, and well, not your own. I would love to have my own music, but they're just playing an all-purpose, probably royalty-free track as people come out, and I come out to the crowd, and like a lot of people, like yeah. But then there was an intense part of the crowd that was booing. I think it was the kind of Commonwealth connection, you know?
Boo the Brit.
Yeah, like the Canadian guy I know, Darian Thomas, who's the top-ranked Canadian here. Obviously, he's their homeboy, right? So he got a big cheer, and I expect that. But I was the only one that I heard that was booed. I didn't hear many Americans being booed.
All right, guys, leave me alone. I just want to eat some poutine.
I just got on stage and fucked their boy up. No Canadians beat me in that contest, let me tell you.
I was going to say, if you could tell us about that, but you just did.
Sorry,
all you Canadian listeners.
Sorry to all the Canadian listeners, yeah. I did it once.
According to cliche, you're all quite, friendly and apologetic, and you'll be fine with my terrible, terrible accent.
Yeah.
So, if you are thinking of listening to our podcast, I don't know why you're currently listening to it, but maybe you sat somewhere or trapped somewhere, or your captors are making you listen to this, and you thought, after a while, Stockholm Syndrome has sunk in, and you're like, oh, you know what? I quite like this, so when I do get out of here, I might listen to it as well. So if you want to, you can find us just by searching for Movie Mouthfuls podcast on your favourite podcast provider. Say it every time, but why are you not already listening to it on your favourite provider?
I'm getting fucking sick to death hearing you say that, man. Just listen to wherever you want to listen to it there.
Make sure to subscribe and follow on said provider. We've also, as I mentioned on episode 13, we're sort of pumping them out on YouTube as well. So if you want to subscribe to that, we might do something a bit more visual in the future. Who knows? So, if you want to stick YouTube on while you're at work or whatever and have it playing outside here, you can do now instead of using a podcast provider. Go right ahead. Make sure you subscribe there and, give us a star review on Apple Podcasts. We had some fantastic reviews that I read out in the last episode. Obviously, I can't read out any new ones because we're literally recording these back to back. So,
oh, really? You haven't mentioned that yet?
I'm just making a point because I'm sure someone will miss the fact that I've said that we recorded them back to back and be like, well, I sent in a review and you never read it, but you said you would. Look, we'll read them when Beard's back in the future and we do episode 14. If there's any new ones, we'll give them a read, preferably of the 5-star variety so we can get in front of more people. So yeah, do that, Apple Podcasts. You can find us over on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook as a collective at Movie Mouthfuls. You can find myself over at Twitter at @thefilmfella_, and also, as mentioned before, on YouTube under The Film Fella, where I talk film and TV and stuff. Beard is never the one to sort of toot his own horn, so to speak, but he is available on everything under Beard Meets Food. Is that
I've been
correct?
known to toot, but yeah, today's not the occasion.
His battery's slowly wearing out, so I'm trying to round this up.
Yeah, I got one of those cheap batteries, not the Duracell, like extra life kind.
Like one from supermarket.
Yeah, one of the old brand Costco fucking batteries here, man.
If you want to send us any questions or you've got anything that you want to say, you can obviously message us on any of those social media channels, as plenty of you already have, suggesting other food and films that we can check out and TV shows. We'll get to them. Ones that we don't recognise, we'll add to his list. We've already got a big list that we're going through, and we're trying to pace ourselves, which is why we are doing some of the big hitters that some of you are asking for. We will get to them, we promise. But you can also email us at moviemouthfuls@gmail.com. If you want to support the podcast, Q Beard moaning into... Yeah, there you go. It's like that scene at the end of Indiana Jones where they all melt when they see the... I was going to say the Goblet of Fire. That's not right. That's a different film. That's just meshing films together.
Yeah, no, you got it wrong, film fella.
It was a joke. The patreon.com/moviemouthfuls, you can donate a couple of quid if you want to. And
a couple? It's gone from last week asking people for a quid. Now it's a couple. What next? You have to ask people for their fucking pay packet every week.
£1's fine. Whatever you want. Just it'll sustain some sort of item for the podcast that we can improve upon.
Pay for my table to be cleaned.
Yeah. Maple syrup is very sticky.
I might leave it there and just lick it off next week.
Oh, wow. So I'll know whether you've actually got to Canada or not.
Yeah.
You'll be drinking real stuff from Source, won't you, soon?
Drinking real stuff from Source. I will judge from here.
If you want to support us and you want to actually own something for your support, then if you head over to moviemouthfuls.bigcartel.com, you can grab yourself a shirt or a mug, so which you can probably spit out in delirious laughter. And, when we say something that's just so funny, you can be like drinking your tea or your coffee and fire it all over your best friend or your missus or your car or your co-workers at the office. And then they'll be like, oh, what's that mug? And you'll be like, oh, Movie Mouthfuls podcast, you should listen to it. Or probably shouldn't. But anyway, you can get one from moviemouthfuls.bigcartel.com. If you use the code MOUTHFULS, you'll get 10% off. I'm trying to just make it as cost effective for everyone involved. So give that a whirl if you want some merch. Big thanks again to Lee for all the music on the pod. Big thank you to Damon again for the artwork. It's amazing. Thank you so much. We'll be back very soon once Adam's come back from Canada. Not sure what we're doing next. But until then, remember...
an alternative word for balls is testes, testicles, nuts, juice bombs. I think I'm out now.
Plums. Macaulay, man, like you should have asked us, even though it's the past.
It is the distant past. Anyway, thanks for listening.
See you in a bit.
Peace.
Man, we need coffee or something next time we do two back to back.
I could eat a jar of Vaseline right now. I'm joking.